Back in Central Arkansas now, the man accused of killing a Little Rock school teacher was in court today. 29-year-old Dwayne Nuner entered a not guilty plea to a capital murder charge in the death of 36-year-old Michelle Butler. Now, this happened in the parking lot of Rockefeller Early Childhood Center Wednesday afternoon. According to newly released court documents, Butler was hit by a car driven by Nuner and was shot multiple times. Butler was pronounced dead at the scene. Nuner was found by police at a gas station about 30 minutes later. Police say the two were in a relationship.
3 days before she died, Michelle Butler posted something on Facebook. "Anything that disrupts my peace has to be removed from my life completely." She meant it. She'd already left him, changed her routine, armed herself. But Dwayne Nuner didn't do peace. He did control. And when she tried to move on, he made sure she never would. You are watching Deep Crime TV, where we break down real stories about domestic violence and relationship crimes that shook communities. We don't sugarcoat it. We don't sensationalize it, we just tell you what happened. If you're into true crime that hits close to home, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next case. Before her name became a headline, Michelle Butler was just Miss Michelle, the teacher who knelt down to tie children's shoes at Rockefeller Early Childhood Center in Little Rock, Arkansas. The one who reminded kids to share their crayons and used that soft voice that somehow made crying stop. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't trying to save the world. She was just showing up, doing the work, and going home to her 3 children. Michelle was born and raised in Little Rock, never left, because this was where her family was, where her roots ran deep. A graduate of J.A. Fair High School, she carried herself with the same quiet strength people remembered from her teenage years. Friends described her as someone who could walk into any room and make it lighter. Not loud, not over the top, just present. The kind of person you wanted around when things got hard. She was a mother first. 3 kids. The oldest, Cody, had just won the Southeast Arkansas Youth Football League championship for 5th and 6th graders. Michelle bragged about that boy to anyone who would listen. Told her coworkers, told strangers at the grocery store, posted about it online with a smile that stretched across her entire face. "That's my boy," she'd say, and you could hear the pride. But motherhood wasn't easy. It never is. She worked hard to keep her kids fed, clothed, stable. She juggled schedules and late nights, and the kind of exhaustion that only single mothers truly understand. Still, she showed up for every game, every celebration, every bedtime talk. Her kids were her world, and everyone knew it. That Facebook post she made, the one about removing anything that disrupts peace, it wasn't random. It was a window into where her head was at. Michelle was trying to grow, trying to rise above the noise, trying to reclaim calm after years of chaos. She'd been through relationships that didn't work, been through heartbreak, been through men who made promises they didn't keep, and she was tired of it. She wanted peace, real peace, the kind that lets you sleep at night without checking your phone, the kind that doesn't come with accusations or interrogations or surprise visits. She was rebuilding herself, piece by piece, and she was finally starting to feel solid again. Then there was Dwayne Rashad Nuner, 29 years old, also from Little Rock. To people who didn't know him well, Dwayne seemed fine, charismatic even. He could make you laugh, knew how to work a room, knew what to say to make you feel like you mattered. That's how it starts, isn't it? The charm, the attention, the way someone makes you feel, seen after you've been invisible for too long. Michelle met him and saw that charm first. It's what most victims see first. The good parts, the funny parts, the parts that make you think maybe this time will be different. And for a while, Dwayne made her feel like she deserved better, told her she was strong, told her she'd been through too much, told her he'd be different from the others. But charm has a way of fading when control takes over. Friends who knew Dwayne described him differently. Unpredictable, quick to anger, the kind of guy who held grudges long after everyone else moved on. He had a history, not the kind you'd see in a background check, but the kind people whispered about. Arguments that went too far, moments where his temper flashed and people stepped back. He wasn't dangerous to everyone, but to the people close to him, the ones who saw behind the mask. He was someone you learned to handle carefully. Records later revealed he'd been in trouble before. Nothing that landed him in prison, but enough to show a pattern, a short fuse, a need to be in charge, a refusal to let things go. When Michelle and Dwayne started dating, it felt normal at first. Messages, phone calls, late-night conversations where he told her things she wanted to hear. She'd been cautious. After all, she had kids. She had a life. She couldn't afford to let just anyone in. But Dwayne was persistent. He made her laugh, made her feel like maybe she could trust again. So she let him in. And that's when things started to shift. It wasn't obvious at first. It never is. He wanted to know where she was, who she was talking to, why she didn't answer his call right away. He'd check her phone when she wasn't looking, ask questions about her coworkers, get upset if she posted a photo online and other men liked it. He called it care, called it protection, but it wasn't. It was possession. Michelle's friends started noticing changes. She wasn't going out as much, wasn't responding to texts like she used to. When they asked if everything was okay, she'd smile and say she was just busy, just tired, just trying to keep up with work and the kids. But they could see it. The light in her eyes was dimming. Then came the rumors. In the days before her death, talk started circulating through Little Rock. People online were saying Dwayne caught Michelle following another man on social media. Whether that was true or not, no one can say for sure. But in a town where gossip spreads faster than facts, it didn't matter. The story took on a life of its own. And for someone like Dwayne, someone whose ego couldn't handle the idea of Michelle looking at anyone else, even a rumor was enough to light a fire. But here's what isn't a rumor. Here's what's fact. Dwayne's threats became constant. He'd call at all hours, show up at her house unannounced, text her paragraphs full of accusations and demands. He'd follow her, watch her, make sure she knew he was always there. Michelle told friends she was scared. Not worried, scared. The kind of fear that sits in your chest and won't leave. She'd already left him, made it clear they were done. But Dwayne didn't accept that. To him, Michelle didn't get to make that choice. He did, and if he couldn't have her, he'd make sure no one else could either. That's when Michelle made a decision. She bought a gun. Not because she wanted to hurt anyone, not because she was looking for a fight, but because she didn't feel safe. She kept it in her car, her insurance policy, her last line of defense against the man who used to promise he'd protect her. Now, he was the one she needed protection from. She told a few people about it. Friends, family. They understood. They didn't judge her for it. They were just glad she had something, anything, that might keep him away. But the cruel irony was waiting. Because the weapon Michelle carried to defend herself would become the weapon Dwayne used to kill her. Mid-August, Michelle Butler was trying to live a new life. She'd started her position at Rockefeller Early Childhood Center about a month earlier. It was a fresh start, a chance to focus on something other than the fear that had been consuming her. She was settling into the rhythm of the school day, greeting children, helping them with their backpacks, learning their names and their little quirks. She was good at it, natural, the kind of teacher kids gravitated toward because she made them feel safe. But outside those school walls, safety was slipping further away. Dwayne wasn't letting go. Every day brought new messages, new calls, new reasons why they needed to talk. He'd drive by her house, show up at places he knew she'd be. It wasn't love anymore. It was surveillance. He needed to know where she was, who she was with, what she was doing every minute of every day. Friends urged her to get a restraining order, to go to the police, to make it official. But Michelle knew what many women in her position know. Paper doesn't stop bullets. A court order doesn't stop someone who's already decided they're willing to lose everything. Still, she tried to protect herself in the way she could. She kept her distance, stopped responding to his messages, blocked his number, changed her routine so he couldn't predict her movements. And she kept that gun close, always in her car, always within reach. But Dwayne was watching, learning, waiting for the right moment. The tension in those final days was heavy. Michelle confided in a coworker that she was worried. Not just worried, terrified. She said Dwayne had been making threats, saying things that made it clear he wasn't going to just walk away. She didn't go into detail, didn't spell it out, but the fear in her voice said enough. That coworker asked if she'd told anyone, police, family, anyone who could help. Michelle said she had. But what could they really do? He hadn't broken any laws yet, hadn't put his hands on her in a way that left marks. It was all words, all implications, and the system doesn't move on implications. So Michelle kept showing up, kept smiling at the kids, kept pretending everything was fine. Because what else could she do? Stop living? Stop working? Let him take everything from her before he even touched her? No. She was going to keep building, keep moving forward, keep trying to grow. And Dwayne hated that. He couldn't stand the idea that Michelle was moving on, that she was happy, that she was creating a life that didn't include him. To him, her peace felt like betrayal. Her independence felt like disrespect. And every day she spent away from him was another day his rage built. By Wednesday, August 16th, that rage had reached its breaking point. It was 2:54 inches the afternoon. The kind of late summer day in Little Rock where the heat sits heavy in the air and doesn't move. Inside Rockefeller Early Childhood Center, the day was winding down. Teachers were tidying up classrooms. Children were lining up with their backpacks, excited to go home. Parents were beginning to arrive, pulling into the parking lot, one by one. Michelle Butler was outside near her car. She'd just finished her shift. She was talking briefly with another teacher, laughing about something small, maybe lesson plans, maybe weekend plans. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that in those final moments, she was calm, she was present. She had no idea what was coming. From across the street, Dwayne Rashad Nuner appeared. Witnesses would later describe hearing an engine, loud, aggressive, the kind of sound that makes you turn your head because something feels wrong. A black sedan came tearing into the parking lot, moving too fast for a school zone, cutting across spaces like it had a target. And it did. Michelle saw him, recognized the car. Her body must have gone cold. All those weeks of fear, all those nights lying awake wondering when he'd show up. And now, here he was, in broad daylight, in front of her workplace, in front of the school where children were still inside. The argument started immediately. Shouting, Dwayne got out of the car, yelling accusations. People nearby couldn't make out every word, but the tone was clear. Anger, jealousy, rage. Michelle tried to back away, tried to create distance, but there was nowhere to go. Then Dwayne got back in his car and he hit the gas. The black sedan surged forward and slammed into Michelle, knocking her to the ground. Her body crumpled against the pavement, but he didn't stop. He reversed, then hit her again and again. Witnesses stood frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't an argument that got out of hand. This was deliberate, calculated. This was someone trying to erase another human being. Michelle was on the ground, injured, barely moving. And then Dwayne did something even more calculated. He got out of his car, walked over to Michelle's vehicle, and reached inside. He knew what he was looking for. The gun. The weapon she'd bought to protect herself from him. He took it, and then he stood over her, and he shot her. The sound echoed across the parking lot. Inside the school, staff members heard it and immediately screamed for a lockdown. Teachers rushed to pull children away from windows. Some kids started crying, confused and scared. Others were ushered into small rooms, away from the doors, away from whatever was happening outside. In less than 2 minutes, Michelle Butler's life was over. The parking lot where she'd waved goodbye to students just moments earlier was now a crime scene. Blood on the pavement. Her car doors still open, her body motionless. The school that had been filled with children's laughter was now filled with panic and sirens. Dwayne didn't stay. He got back in his car and drove off, leaving Michelle where she fell, leaving behind a scene so violent, so public, that no one who witnessed it would ever forget. Teachers inside tried to keep the children calm, but their own hands were shaking. Parents arriving for pickup were stopped at the gates, told there was an emergency, told to wait. Some of them saw the police cars flooding in, saw the ambulance, saw the yellow tape going up, and they knew. They knew something terrible had happened. Medics arrived within minutes. They tried. They performed CPR. They did everything protocol required. But Michelle was gone. She'd been gone the moment Dwayne pulled that trigger. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman who spent her days protecting children couldn't protect herself. Not from the man who once promised to love her. Police dispatch lit up immediately. Descriptions of the black sedan went out across every channel. Officers were told the suspect was armed, dangerous, and had just committed murder in front of a preschool. A citywide alert went out. Every patrol car in Little Rock was looking for Dwayne Rashad Nuner. It didn't take long. Within 30 minutes, officers spotted the black sedan near Geyer Springs Road. They moved to stop him. Dwayne saw them coming and tried to run, but the chase was brief. He was surrounded, boxed in, nowhere left to go. And when he realized escape was impossible, he gave up. He surrendered without a fight.
Police say the shooting happened just before 3 p.m. Wednesday near the Rockefeller Early Childhood Center. When officers arrived, they located an unresponsive female with a gunshot wound. Medics attempted life-saving measures, but she died at the scene. The area was secured, and police have now identified the victim as 36-year-old Michelle Butler. School district officials say, quote, "We're working closely with the Little Rock Police Department as they investigate, and we ask our community to keep the Rockefeller ECC family in their thoughts and prayers." With Mayor Frank Scott Jr. adding, quote, "We're outraged, angry, and heartbroken that this crime occurred in such proximity to our precious children. At the same time, we're grateful for the nurturing, caring hands of the Rockefeller staff that kept students safe today and every day."
In custody, Dwayne was read his rights. And then he confessed. He admitted to running Michelle over, admitted to taking her gun, admitted to shooting her. He told investigators he'd thrown the weapon away while fleeing, discarded it like it was evidence instead of the tool he'd used to end a life. Detectives searched the route he'd taken and eventually recovered the gun. Dwayne Rashad Nuner was charged with capital murder. No bond. He was taken to Pulaski County Regional Jail, where he'd wait for his day in court. The following day, he stood before a judge, and despite his confession, despite the witnesses, despite the evidence, he entered a plea of not guilty. For Michelle's family, that plea felt like another wound. The man who had terrorized her, who had killed her in front of a school, was now going to make them relive it all. in a courtroom. The courtroom was packed when Dwayne Nuner made his first appearance. Family members of Michelle Butler sat on one side, their faces blank with grief. On the other side, a few of Dwayne's relatives, uncomfortable and silent. The air was thick with tension, the kind you can feel pressing against your chest. Dwayne stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, face showing no emotion. The prosecutor laid out the charges: capital murder, premeditated, brutal, witnessed by multiple people, captured on surveillance, confessed to by the defendant himself. The evidence was overwhelming. Witness testimony placed Dwayne at the scene, showed him accelerating his vehicle into Michelle, showed him retrieving her gun, showed him firing. The footage didn't lie, the witnesses didn't waver, and his own confession, given to detectives within an hour of his arrest, sealed it. But Dwayne's defense attorney entered a not guilty plea anyway. It's a legal strategy, a way to buy time, a way to force the state to prove every detail. But to Michelle's family, it felt like cruelty, like he was making them fight for justice they shouldn't have to fight for. The trial process moved slowly. Hearings, motions, delays. Months passed. Michelle's children were growing up without their mother. Her oldest son, Cody, the one she'd bragged about after his football championship, now had to navigate life without the person who believed in him most. The younger two clung to grandparents, trying to understand why their mom wasn't coming home. In court, the prosecution painted a clear picture. This was a man who couldn't handle rejection, who saw Michelle's independence as a threat, who stalked her, threatened her, and finally killed her when she refused to come back. They presented phone records showing his constant calls, text messages showing his threats, witness statements showing his pattern of control. The defense tried to muddy the waters, suggested there was more to the relationship, implied Michelle wasn't innocent. But the facts didn't care about implications. The facts were simple. Dwayne Nuner drove to Michelle Butler's workplace, ran her over repeatedly, took her gun, and shot her. No amount of character assassination could change that. One of the most powerful moments came when a teacher from Rockefeller took the stand. She described Michelle as kind, dedicated, and terrified in her final days. She recounted a conversation where Michelle admitted she was scared of Dwayne, where she said she didn't know what to do, where she said she felt trapped even though she'd already left him. She did everything right, the teacher said, her voice breaking. She left him. She avoided him. She protected herself. And he still found a way. That testimony hung in the courtroom because it was true. Michelle had done everything society tells domestic violence survivors to do. Recognize the danger. Remove yourself. Protect yourself. Report if you can. And it still wasn't enough. The jury didn't take long to deliberate. The evidence was too clear. The crime too obvious. Dwayne Rashad Nuner was found guilty of capital murder. The room erupted in quiet sobs from Michelle's family. Relief mixed with grief. Justice mixed with the painful reality that it wouldn't bring her back. Sentencing came shortly after. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dwayne showed no reaction, no remorse, no acknowledgement of what he'd taken. He was led out of the courtroom in chains, and for Michelle's family, it was over. Not in the way they wanted, not in a way that healed anything, but it was over. Outside the courthouse, Michelle's sister spoke to reporters. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red. Michelle was trying to live, she said. She was trying to be happy. She was trying to give her kids a good life. And he couldn't let her. He took her from us because he couldn't control her anymore. That's what this was. Control. She was right. That's exactly what it was. In the days and weeks that followed the verdict, Little Rock tried to move forward. But Michelle Butler's story wouldn't let the city forget. Vigils continued. Balloons were released at Rockefeller Early Childhood Center. Candles were lit in the parking lot where she died. Pink and white flowers piled up near the gates. The Little Rock School District released statements mourning the loss of a beloved staff member. They offered counseling to students and teachers who witnessed the aftermath. Social workers were brought in. Grief counselors met with families. But no amount of support could erase what those children saw, what those teachers heard, the fear that settled into a place that was supposed to be safe. Michelle's story became part of a larger conversation. Arkansas has one of the highest rates of women killed by intimate partners in the nation. Her case wasn't an anomaly. It was a pattern. Advocates for domestic violence survivors used her story to push for stronger protections, for faster response times, for laws that take threats seriously before they turn into funerals. But the hardest part, the part that stays with people, is how preventable it was. Michelle saw the danger. She named it. She walked away from it. She armed herself against it. And the system that should have stopped Dwayne before he acted never did. Because threats aren't crimes until they become actions. And by then, it's too late. Her Facebook post, the one about removing anything that disrupts peace, became a haunting reminder. She was just trying to grow, trying to rebuild, trying to create a life where she felt safe and her children felt loved. And for that, for daring to choose herself, she was punished in the most permanent way. Michelle Butler's legacy isn't just her death, it's her life. It's the way she showed up for her kids, the way she tied children's shoes and calmed their fears, the way she smiled even when she was scared, the way she fought for peace even when someone was determined to take it from her. Her children will grow up knowing their mother was strong, that she tried, that she didn't give up. But they'll also grow up knowing the system failed her, that the man who was supposed to love her became the man who killed her. And that knowledge, that painful truth, will shape them forever. Dwayne Nuner is in prison now. He'll spend the rest of his life there. But Michelle Butler is gone. Her laugh, her warmth, her presence, all erased because one man believed love meant ownership. If there's anything to take from this story, it's this. Leaving isn't always enough. Protecting yourself isn't always enough. The system isn't always fast enough. And the people who say, just leave, don't understand that leaving is often when the danger becomes deadly. Michelle Butler tried to grow. She tried to build peace. She tried to live, and that should have been enough. Thanks for watching. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment below. Let's talk about it. Let's keep Michelle's name alive. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to Deep Crime. We cover cases like this every single day. Real stories, real victims, real consequences. Turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. There are more stories that need to be told, and we're not stopping. See you in the next one.